Hi everybody, happy Wednesday. I am so excited for you to see this video. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you the whole process of how I created a brown smoky eye on my mom, from skincare to lashes. You're going to see the whole thing. This is a look that I often do for my mother of the bride. I do this look on mature clients that want more of a dramatic look, but maybe don't want to do the whole gray, black, smoky eye thing. So it's a great practical look for you to learn. Another thing that you're going to see during this video, my mom actually had a hot flash and started sweating. So when people have hot flashes, and this is a really common thing when you're working with clients who are a little bit older, sweat beads up on their skin. So you're going to see how I dealt with that in this video as well. The other thing I want to share with you, during this video, I used this palette. It's the Sephora Pro Pigment Palette in Cool. It was my first time working with these shadows. Sephora sent me this product. I am in love. You are going to see how amazing these shadows are in this video. Again, it was my first time working with them. I've never worked with them before. The color payoff was amazing and they blended really well. The price of this palette is $85 Canadian, so it's very reasonable. And these are all the shadows that you get in this palette. So if you're out there watching and you're building your kit and you're thinking about doing bridal, you need to consider this palette and you need to think about adding this to your kit, because this, I think after this video, is definitely going in my kit, and I think I might have to go and buy the warm palette as well because I'm just in love with these shadows. So you will see how great they are in this video. Sit back, enjoy, and I hope you find this helpful. Starting with skin prep, my mom has very dry skin and she does have some flaky spots on her face. So I'm taking a baby wipe and a little bit of the Embryolisse and I'm just exfoliating around the nose and on her chin where she has those dry flaky patches. I'm being careful not to exfoliate too much or press too firmly on her skin. Her skin is really reactive and I don't want it getting too red before our makeup application. Now I'm taking some of that Embryolisse and just massaging it into the skin. I'm making sure that the product goes right into her skin so it's nice and hydrated and we don't get any dry, patchy, rough spots during the makeup application. My mom's eyes are very sensitive, so I'm using the Avène Soothing Eye Contour Cream and I'm gently patting it just around the eye area to give her moisture and to help soothe some of the redness on the skin. I'm going to start with a little bit of foundation just on the eye area and on the forehead, and I'm mixing the Face Atelier in number 1 and the RCMA foundation in Ivory just to give it a cooler tone, and I'm applying this with a Real Techniques synthetic brush and I'm just buffing this onto her forehead, and of course I'm going to be buffing it a little bit of the product into her brows and on her eyelids as well. Just from this little application, you can see a little goes a long way with this product and it covers her skin quite well. And this is without mixing in any corrector on some of her sunspots. So it looks really great on camera and it gives her just the right amount of coverage without looking too heavy on the skin. Another great tip when working with more mature clients, if they do have gray hair, be very careful not to get a lot of foundation in the hairline. It makes the gray hair along the hairline look really orange and gross. So be careful when you are applying around the hairline, especially with clients that have gray hair or blonde hair. Now I'm going to apply one of my favorite products for bridal makeup application. It's the MAC 24-Hour Extend Eye Base. I love this as a primer. I'm just working it into the lid with a Real Techniques synthetic brush. I'm making sure to lift up the lid a little bit so that the product gets into all of the fine lines and wrinkles on the eyelid. Don't be afraid to blend this product right up onto the brow bone. It's a great primer for shadow and it will also help when you are applying whatever product you're using to fill in the brows, whether it's a powder or a pencil. I'm taking a tiny amount of the Laura Mercier translucent powder on a MAC 224 brush and just setting some of the product that's in my mom's brows so that when I start applying the brow powder, everything goes on smoothly. I'm going to take the same MAC 224 brush and Studio Fix in NW15, which is pretty much my mom's skin tone, and I'm using this as a base shadow. The Studio Fix powder foundation has a little bit of coverage, so it covers all of my mom's capillaries and any discoloration on the eyelid, and it also acts as a great primer for eyeshadow. It is really important to make sure that when you are applying any base shadow that it gets into all of the fine lines with your mature clients. This is going to act as the base for the eyeshadow look that we're building, so we want it to be smooth and even all over. You've already seen me fill in my mom's brows, so I'm starting again with the Anastasia Brow Primer. This is the part of the makeup application where my mom had a hot flash. So I'm taking the Beauty Blender Blotterazzi and I'm just using it to soak up the sweat that's sitting on the surface of the skin. You can see on the top of her lip how much sweat was building up. And you can also see that the Blotterazzi does not alter the makeup we already have on her forehead. Getting back to the brows, the Anastasia Brow Powder Duo with the Anastasia Angle Brush. In today's video, I want her brows to have more of a neutral tone to them because we are doing a heavier makeup look. So I'm using the taupe powder and I'm also using the ash brown powder to build a little bit of shape and density in her brows. And now I'm going in with the Anastasia Brow Wiz in Granite to give the brow a little bit more definition and to bring in some of that gray neutral tone that occurs naturally in her hair into her brows so everything looks blended together and her brows resemble how they actually look naturally, so with a bit of gray and a bit of that taupey undertone as well. And of course, I'm using a disposable lash wand to blend everything together and brush through the brows. Now it's time to get to the fun part. This is the Sephora Pro Pigment Palette. This is the Cool Palette. I'm starting with a shadow called Cashmere. It's a really light base shadow and I'm applying that with the MAC 224 brush. This base shadow color is almost the same color as my mom's skin tone. Now we're going to start building this eyeshadow look. I'm using a Sephora tapered crease brush. It's one of my favorite brushes to use for this. And I'm using a color from the palette called Flax, which is just a really soft light brown. I'm applying the shadow all over the lid and you can see that I'm gently blending it up just past the eyelid into the crease. When you are doing a smoky eye look, especially with mature skin, it's so important to blend. So you will see me repeatedly apply shadow and then blend it with a fluffier brush like the MAC 224. And you'll notice I'm lifting up my mom's eyelid while I'm applying the shadow. This just gives me a smooth canvas to work on, and it just allows me to blend the shadow on her lid a little bit more easily. And I'm going back in with the MAC 224 to make sure that the transition between the base shadow and that light brown shadow is seamless. It's time to start intensifying the smoky eye a little bit, so I'm using a Sephora Pro shadow brush, and I'm using a color from the palette that's called Hot Chocolate. It's a little bit deeper than the Flax shadow that we used, and I'm applying this on the outer corners, and I'm blending it in just above the eye contour area to give my mom's eyes a little bit more intensity and a little more definition. I'm going back in with that MAC 224 brush, which is such a great brush for blending, and I'm making sure that all of the colors are blended together well and they transition seamlessly. I'm taking a MAC 239 and I'm using a dark brown shadow called Espresso. I'm packing this into the lash line. This is what is going to help tie all of these colors together and really give us that smoky look. So I'm packing it onto the lash line and blending it upwards onto the lid. When you are creating a smoky eye or when you're working with any shadow, you want to take time during the makeup application to step back and make sure that both eyes look even. So if you are applying a dark shadow, make sure that you apply the same amount of shadow on each eye so everything looks even when you step back and everything is balanced. So you see me doing this with my mom. I apply a little bit of shadow, I'll step back just to make sure everything looks good. And if I need to apply more dark shadow or blend a little bit more, I can do that. Taking the MAC 266 angled brush, I'm taking a black shadow from the Sephora Pro palette. It's called Obsidian, and I'm just taking the shadow and working it into the lash line. I don't want to do a liquid liner on this look. The look is intense enough on my mom, but I do love applying a little bit of black shadow and blending that right into the lash line. I'm going to be applying false lashes on her, so I want to make sure that the lash application is seamless and you aren't able to see the difference between the lashes and where my mom's natural lashes are. So applying black shadow right deep into the lash line is a great way to prep the eyes for lashes, and it just intensifies the smoky eye a little bit more without using too much black shadow. This is actually one of my favorite things to do. I'm taking some of the Bioderma on a cotton pad and I'm gently removing any of the fallout underneath the eye. There was hardly any fallout with these shadows, which I love. And of course, because my mom was sweating a little bit, I'm taking the Blotterazzi and just removing any of the excess sweat before we start the rest of the foundation application. I'm finishing up the foundation application. I'm back to using the Face Atelier that I color adjusted with a bit of the RCMA foundation just to give it a little bit more of a cooler undertone because the Face Atelier does have a slight yellow undertone to it. And you can see the combination of these two foundations gives a really beautiful coverage and a really amazing finish to the skin. My mom has really great skin. She does have a few sunspots, but the foundation on its own with no corrector and with no concealer already covers a majority of the imperfections on her skin. And this is one of the reasons why I love using this foundation in my kit. I love buffing this foundation onto the skin. It gets into any of the pores and fine lines really easily. And also remember, do not forget to blend this foundation onto the neck. I'm taking the lightest concealer color from this limited edition MAC Studio Conceal and Correct palette. I'm mixing it with the MAC Studio Conceal and Correct Duo in Mid Peach. Of course, I'm using my favorite brush, the MAC 224, and I'm only applying the concealer where my mom needs it. She has a little bit of discoloration underneath her eye and a little bit of discoloration closer to the inner corner of her eye. So there is no need to cake this on. The corrector does a lot of the work, gives a beautiful coverage, and I don't have to worry about any of the product creasing, and I don't have to apply a lot of this. So it's a really quick application, and of course keep it really soft and gentle around the eye contour area. I'm going to take some of this concealer and corrector and just apply it over top of some of the sunspots that are peeking through the foundation, just to bump up the coverage a little bit. I don't want to cake anything on her face. Again, I want to keep it nice and natural. So I'm just going to dot the concealer on where I think she needs it. I'm taking a damp beauty blender and I'm just pressing everything into her skin. I just want to make sure that everything is blended. I want to sort of eliminate any of the product that maybe has started to settle in the fine lines. So when I set the foundation with powder, everything is smooth and we can really avoid any product caking into the fine lines. I am not quite done working on my mom's complexion, but I do want to set the concealer and corrector that I applied. So I'm using a damp beauty blender with a little bit of the Laura Mercier translucent setting powder. I just want to get that area set with powder so nothing starts to crease under the eye area. Now I'm going to take this SEPHORA, it's a dual-ended brush, and I'm using Face Atelier. It's number 8, so it's a couple shades darker than my mom's natural skin tone, and I'm using this to contour very slightly. Again, I'm taking my time and I'm being really careful because I don't want any of this product staining the gray hairs around her face. I do want to give her a little bit of contour. I think it adds a nice shape to the face, and I'm building this contour very, very gradually because the color I am using is quite dark. If you want to try this technique with a cream product, start with something that's maybe 2 to 3 shades darker. I'm very comfortable with how this foundation works, so I'm okay to use something that's a little bit darker. And again, I'm applying it very, very slowly, and I'm gradually building up this contour, again, just to add a little bit more dimension and structure to my mom's face. This is another favorite part of the makeup application for me. I'm using the RCMA cream blush. It's in a really soft peachy color. I'm using a synthetic brush from Real Techniques, and I'm just applying this blush on the apples of her cheeks. This product is so pigmented, so again, I'm building the color up very slowly to make sure I don't apply too much. Taking a damp beauty blender, and I'm just softening the blush application to make sure there are no blotches and everything is blended seamlessly. I'm taking the SEPHORA Pro Contour brush, which I love to set foundation because it's a smaller brush, and of course using the Laura Mercier translucent powder. I'm pressing the powder into my mom's skin and then I'm buffing it in. So press it in, buff it out, and this will give you a great set on your foundation. Also, if you have anybody that has combination skin or some deeper lines on the face, you can press the powder into those areas and buff it out. Moving on to mascara, I'm using the Maybelline Great Lash in Waterproof. This one is Black is Black, and I am applying mascara to my mom's lashes. I am applying false lashes on her in this video, so I don't need a ton of mascara. And again, bending that disposable mascara wand to make sure I can get right to the base of the lash. I am using individual false lashes on my mom today. These are the Ardell Knotted Trio, so it's 3 individual lashes in one little piece. I'm applying it with the Dark Duo Lash Glue, which dries black. And of course, I'm using my favorite lash applicator. It's the Velour Too Easy Lash Applicator. And I'm just applying these ones. These are a medium length because my mom actually has quite long lashes. So I'm using these little flare trios in medium, and I am applying them from the outside of the lash to the inner corner. I have 3 sets of trios for each lash. So I'm popping them in with the applicator, and then I'm just adjusting them with my finger. Individual lashes are my favorite lashes to use on my mature clients. They're very comfortable to wear. They won't even notice that they're on, and they're really easy to apply. The reason I keep the trios in my kit is because they do apply faster than just the individual single lashes that you can get. And you will see I will be using a couple individual singles in just a couple seconds. I'm going to take the flare trios in a shorter length now, and I'm going to apply those closer to the inner corner of the eye. So basically, I'm building a false lash onto the lash line. I'm using just one of the shorter flare trios on the inner corner, and then I'm going to fill in some of the gaps with some individual lashes. I'm just making sure everything is right against the lash line. I'm using the applicator to secure the lashes right onto the lash line. I want to make sure that these lashes look as flawless as possible. My last step on the skin is to use the MAC Mineralized Powder in medium dark, and I'm just going to go over some of the areas that I contoured with the foundation before I set it with powder, just to intensify that a little bit and to give my mom a little bit of color on the outside of the skin, and to also intensify some of her cheekbones a little bit. So this is a great product to use because it gives a really natural, smooth finish on the skin, and it almost acts as a little bit of a bronzer. I also love to layer blush when I'm doing these bridal looks. I just like to make sure that the color stays on the entire day. I'm using my favorite MAC Mineralized blush in Gleeful just to, again, intensify some of that cream blush that we already applied onto my mom's skin. Now for some highlighter, I'm using the Anastasia highlighter. This color is Bubbly. I'm using the same brush that I used for my mom's blush. I'm just giving her a little bit of that highlighter on the cheekbones, a little bit under the brow as well. This is just going to finish the makeup and make her skin pop and give her a really subtle glow, which is beautiful for a mother of the bride or a mature client. My mom is not a fan of wearing any lipsticks or lip products that dry out her lips, so I'm not going to be using a long wearing lip color. I'm going to base the lip with this lip liner. I'm going to start with that first. This is MAC lip liner in Subculture. I'm going to use MAC lipstick in Spirit. This is a favorite mother of the bride color for me. It's a really rich nude color, so I'm just going to apply that over the lip liner. I like to add a little bit of dimension to any nude lip that I'm doing, so I'm going to be applying a second lipstick over the MAC lipstick. This is a color from Maybelline called Daringly Nude. It's a little bit lighter and a little bit creamier. I'm just applying that right on top of the lipstick from MAC just to give that lip a little bit more pop and a little bit more definition and to soften the color of the MAC lipstick. The final step is to take an angled brush with a little bit of concealer on it and just clean up the lip line. This also helps prevent the lipstick from bleeding. Now that the makeup is done, I'm going to seal it all in with the Urban Decay De-Slick Setting Spray. Here is the final look. I think she looks unreal. I love the lashes. Her skin looks great. And the makeup is enough to show through the glasses that my mom wears as well, which is important to keep in mind. That is it for our smoky brown mother of the bride tutorial. I think my mom looks amazing. Mom, you love your look, right?
I love it. Absolutely love it.
Are you ready to come back for another one?
Oh, absolutely.
Thanks so much for watching, and maybe the both of us will see you next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Wow. Holy shit. Oh my God. Oh my God. I could look like that for the wedding?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Are you happy?
I love the lipstick. God, that's a beautiful color.